Good morning. Welcome to the APFA Retirement Seminar for November 11th, 2025. I'm Patrick Hancock, and
I'm Kim Tuck, and good morning. And it's Veterans Day too, so we know we have flight attendants that are also veterans, and we want to honor you guys and thank you guys. So anyway, moving on to our retirement seminar.
I'm not sure who the people in this slide are because clearly that's not us. But anyway, Kim Coates is the APFA National Retirement. I'm the Retirement Specialist Emeritus. And whenever we talk about the team, we always give a shout out to Ron Harris because Ron Harris was responsible for a lot of the things you're going to see in today's presentation.
Hey, Ron, love you, miss you.
Hey, Ron. Yeah, probably traveling somewhere in the world. He always does that. He's one of those flight attendants that you go, man, they really make use of their travel benefits.
He's having fun without us.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure whether to be happy or sad about that. But yeah, happy. So that's who we are. Who we are not is we are not the company. This is a union meeting. And I have been a union rep for too many decades and have developed a rather healthy cynicism about the management team of my employer. So if I say things about them or the company that you think is disparaging or rude, yeah, well, that's the way it is. So yeah. However, we are also not your financial advisors, and we think you really should have a financial advisor. We'll probably say that, I think, 7 times during the course of this presentation, that you really need to have a financial advisor. And we're not it, but you really should have one. We're also not your attorneys. We're not your Medicare advisors. We're not your Social Security advisors. And the fact that we are talking about all of those indicate that, yeah, you probably need all of those people. So I've got a question for you. How many people, flight attendants, do you think are age 80 or older? 80. They've been around for 8 decades. How many do you think of those people are flying as flight attendants? Ha, you're wrong. The answer is 30.
Wait, we've had a news flash.
What?
We got an update for this slide, but it didn't make it into the presentation. There are now 44 flight attendants. 44 over the age of 80. Still flying over the age of 80. You go.
Whoa. I tell you, that gives me something to aspire to. And next time I'm complaining, I'm told to be doing the job, someone's just going to slap me again. So I may like that. Okay. Moving on down, we got 205, 75, 665. Look at that. 265, 69, 2,034. Oh my God. Look at that many people all eligible for Medicare if they decided to retire. Yeah. 4,000, which I think is the biggest pile, 4,732. And 4,292, 2101, which means that we have, what is that, 11,000 age 55 and older and are eligible to retire today. Yeah, and the thing about, 11,958, not counting the update.
Not counting the update. I think that biggest bucket has now over 5,000 in it.
Wow. So over 12,000 of our members are eligible to retire today. And if it seems like APFA spends an awful lot of time and resources, and frankly, the company, a lot of time and resources, talking about retirement, helping people to prepare for retirement, that is why.
The company doesn't spend enough time and resources.
Not enough time.
They need to spend more time and resources on it, and we're trying to push them to do that.
And they seem to spend more time making it difficult.
They spend more time and resources on attendance and calling you about stupid things. And then when you retire after 40 years, it's like crickets.
Yeah.
So hello.
So that's why APFA spends so much time and resources, because it is a very important and very timely topic for used to be almost a majority of our members. That's well over a third. All right. And 16,000 under 55. So housekeeping. Kim, what can you tell us about housekeeping?
Okay, basically, the Good Slide handout, if you have it, and you can download it from the APFA website if you don't, or I'll send you a copy. It follows our presentation. And so you don't need to take notes, but if you want to, you can. It doesn't hurt. If you have questions, you can submit them via chat. We've already received some really good questions, and we're going to get a few more during the presentation that if they come in and we haven't answered them in the right section, we'll answer them all at the end. Checklists. In the back of the Good Slide handout, you'll find some really useful checklists that kind of goes through everything you need to do if you're considering retirement. 30 days out, 60 days out, 90 days out, very helpful. So if you're considering retirement, even in the next 12 months or so, get a copy of Good Slide. You'll find it very helpful. There's also a contact list with all the contacts that you need for benefits, Medicare.gov, SSA.gov, Fidelity, all the people you need to call if you're planning to retire. And the most important contact of all, which is retirement@apfa.org. If you have any questions, let us know. We'll be happy to get you the information that you need or point you in the right direction. All right. So now we're going to talk about what retirement really means, and it's composed of 3 different components. The medical benefits is a big one, and that's the big driver of why people are hanging out until age 65, because medical benefits are getting more and more expensive every year. Retirement benefits. Now, these are the fun things, and the main thing you get from being a retiree from American Airlines these days, such as your travel benefits. Medical benefits used to be in that bucket, but guess what? We don't have any retiree medical benefits that are free anymore, unfortunately. And then pension and 401k benefits. Oops, we need to call that 401k/pension benefits because most people these days don't have a pension. Anyone hired after 2012 with AA or after 2005 with US Airways, and there's some other airlines in there if you've worked for them before, TWA, but anyone hired before, after a certain date does not have a pension. And the company and people have suggested that perhaps they bring them back, that they are not planning on doing that. They don't want to hear about it. They're like, no, not going to happen. The pilots have tried, we've tried, but it's probably going forward, 401k is your best bet for retirement income. So make sure you contribute and get the amount in there to get the full contribution and match from the company. So we're going to be talking about those. Yeah, the medical benefits, we talk about that. It's referred to as the whatever shrinking, incredible
shrinking
ever
basket.
shrinking basket, because whatever medical benefits we have now, even before retirement, seem to get smaller and smaller each year. So all right, so important questions you need to ask yourself if you're considering retirement are, what do I need to retire? What do you get in retirement? What about income? That's huge. And what else do I need to research? There's always a few little details that you haven't thought about, and we're going to try and cover all this in the presentation.
That looks suspiciously like our outline.
It does look like our outline. So what do you need to retire? Well, first of all, you need to be eligible. You need money. And you need to be ready. Ooh, that's a biggie. Lots of times people got money, they've got, they're eligible, 65-point plan, but they just can't walk away from that flight attendant lifestyle. And that's a hard one because our job's not just a job, it's a lifestyle.
Sure.
So in order to retire in terms of eligibility, you must have at least 10 years of company seniority based on your date of hire, and your age plus your company seniority must equal 65 or more. That's what the company refers to as the 65-point plan. Now, when you want to retire, there is a mandatory form, and that is the proper way to notify the company if you're planning to retire. You no longer have to call your crew manager. You submit this form, and how you get to it, you go to Crew Portal, then on the menu across the top, you click on departments, you'll see in-flight admin, click on that, and then you'll see a whole list of forms, and the retirement notification form is the very last form on the right-hand side of the page. That is the official notification process for American Airlines. And you'll click submit, And once it goes in, it's going to go to everybody in the company that needs to know you're going to retire. And you may or may not get a response from your manager. I get calls all the time saying, I submitted the form. And once again, crickets, nobody's calling to say, hey, congratulations. Is there anything you need to know? There's not. There's a few little links at the bottom of the form before you submit it. One of them is for APFA, retirement at APFA. Another one is for the information on JetNet, and that's in the team member services section of JetNet if you want to look at the company's retirement information. All right, Patrick, money, income.
Okay, let's talk about money, because that is one of the most important things you'll be thinking about and concentrating on as you get ready for retirement. And when you're doing this kind of long-range planning, there are two major questions you have to answer. The first is, how much do I need to have saved on the day I retire to last me the rest of my life? You know, kind of the goal. And frankly, that's one of the most common questions we get. Well, what's the number? And I'm like, I can't give you an answer really, because the number for you is going to be different for me, different for her, because all of our situations are different. Did you marry somebody with money? Are you happily single and don't have any responsibilities? Or did you marry and somebody is responsible? You're responsible for somebody or a bunch of kids or something. That's going to drive all of those questions, which is why you need to talk to a financial planner, because that's what they do.
Or a bunch of dogs or cats.
Yeah. Huh. I hope I fed the cats this morning. But yeah, and if that they're very good at helping you figure out what that goal is. And so once you've got that number in your, in your plan, how much do I need? Then you have to figure out how much do I need to save each year to reach that goal. And so those are the long range questions. And the problem is, if you're just thinking about retirement now and you're planning on retiring soon, you may have, I think the corporate speak is challenges, because it is not a short range project. Retirement planning is something that you will need to put in many years of plan ahead of planning. Now, it won't be many years of planning. It'll just be planning for many years ahead. That is, again, another thing that financial planners can help you with. This is my favorite cartoon meme in the whole thing. I said you held Christmas off. Yeah. What? Yeah. So anyway, so the general goal when you're doing this planning is to maintain the same lifestyle you had while you were working. And the problem I have with that is that I'm really tired of being poor. I don't want to be the same lifestyle. I want to be one of those wealthy retirees I see in the commercials, jetting off to the Caribbean, running out with their silver sneakers gym membership. But apparently that's not the plan. Apparently the plan is to just maintain the lifestyle I had when I was working. So in order to calculate that, if you retire at 67, the first question you need to ask is, how long am I going to live? What? What do you mean, how long am I going to live? What? That's crazy. How would I, how do I know? That's not really an answer. Yeah, that's nuts. The best you're going to be able to get in answering that question is not an answer, but a guesstimate. And guesstimates are rough approximations. They can be rooted deeply in the data. If you go to a financial planner, they'll tell you, hey, looking at the data, someone with your, age and sex and lifestyle, and they can give you a pretty good guess. But it's all going to be averages. Well, in 2024, which is the last one we have, last year we have year-long data for, the average age of death is 78.4 years. 2020 had the largest decline in the average age since World War II. Thank you, COVID. Thank you, deaths of despair. Thank you, opioid epidemic. And actually, that's across all demographic. It's 75.8 years for men and 81.1 years for women. And I have a question. How did we let that happen? I mean, guys theoretically run the world. Shouldn't running the world be, one of those perks of living longer? But apparently that's not the case. So maybe we don't really run the world. It's less for African Americans, 72.8, and more for Hispanics. I got all this information out of the National Vital Statistics Report, volume 64, book number 6. And I'll tell you, I have found the best cure for insomnia, that book right there. You take that on a layer, you are going to sleep like a baby. But the problem is, that's just an average. And averages mean that half of us are going to die sooner and half of us are going to die later. So the best you're going to be able to do is, which half are you in? So to guess that, you should probably look at how did your are your parents still alive? What age did they die? What age did your grandparents die? And for women, you should look at your mother and her parents. For men, your father and their parents, to try and get a guess. One of the challenges is we are all living longer. So if mom and dad both live to 76, well, you're probably going to live longer because we've got better healthcare, better food, better. But then again, in our occupation, we also fly through the ozone on a fairly regular basis and get more radiation than the average X-ray tech. So yeah, it all so you have to kind of guess an average. And I love telling the story. I started going gray in high school. I mean, it was so bad because you want to fit in high school, and here I'm getting gray hair. People would think I was an instructor. It was terrible. But I went home one day and I said, Mom, I discovered in biology class today that this gray hair is your fault. Everything about a man's hair comes on the mother's genes. So this is your fault. What's going to happen next? Am I going to go bald in college? I mean, did any of my uncles or grandparents or fathers or anybody go bald early? She goes, oh, honey, none of them ever lived that long. Great. A good genetic heritage, the best gift you can give your kids. Thanks, Mom. So the question you have to ask is, which half are you in? Because that's going to drive a lot of your decisions. But the thing is, age is not the only guesstimate. We have other estimates, for instance, salary projection, because we know salaries always go up. Unless you're in the airline industry. Yeah. Inflation always goes up, except for the 12 years we had, though we didn't really have inflation. And the stock market, oh my God, I don't even want to talk about stock market returns.
Roller coaster time.
Oh man, the last couple of weeks have just been gut-wrenching. So we're just going to leave that there. So you have to get all of these guesstimates together to figure out whether or not you have enough money. And again, financial planners are really good at helping you get, you're 80% likely to last. Your money's likely to last, or 90%. And you're never going to get to 100%. I suppose if you knew when you were going to die, like next week, you could get some sort of assurance. But in our culture, knowing when you're going to die is apparently a tragedy instead of a planning advantage. And so, yeah, once you get your money, then you've got one other question. And that's actually the hardest question. Mm-hmm. Are you ready to retire? And I mean, you need to be ready. We talk to a lot of flight attendants who have already retired, and they call us because the company's come up with some new way to screw them. And we will work on the problem, get it all done. And then I say, oh, thank you so much. I say, wait, before you hang up, I got a question for you. Did you retire at the right time? Was it too early, too late? They say, retirement's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I don't know why I ever waited. My life is so full. My calendar is so busy. I don't know how I ever had time to go to work. And I'm like, yeah, great. And that's like 98, 99% of them. I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the 1 or 2% that aren't happy. Why aren't you happy? And almost universally, it's because they didn't plan. They saw it early on. Oh, $40,000, man, that'll last me the rest of my life. And fail. Or they took the sudden out. The sudden out? Yeah, that's where your supervisor and the union rep meet you on the jet bridge. And the union rep says, I got you retirement. I recommend you take it. Yeah, you hadn't planned. Or your doctor says, you can't go back. You didn't plan. You're not in 100% control of the way your life runs. So, I have good news for you. You are here watching this video because you're planning. You're going to be in the 98, 99% that's happy with their decision when they leave. The only question in that is, have you reached that point? And we're flight attendants. I mean, we'll ask we'll talk to our buddy bidder. We'll talk to the spouse, our financial planner, our sister, and all of those people will give you the answer that's best for them because they don't know what's best for you. That's just the way people work. So you'll have to make that decision. And for most of us, there is not going to be 100% sure. Some people are, but for most of us, it's like, I'm mostly sure. And I had a great description from a retiree a couple of months ago. I asked her the question. She says, yeah. And she says, I wasn't sure, but I all of a sudden realized that uncertainty. I knew what I wanted, but I wasn't sure. She says, the last time I experienced that, I was trying to decide whether or not I wanted to go be a stewardess or not, because back then it was a stewardess. And she said that seemed to have worked out pretty good. So I figured I would trust my gut on this and jump, and I'm so happy I did. So.
And I think after the crazy summer we've had
Oh.
in the last month or so, I'm talking to more and more people that are sure. So I think when you know, and a lot of people are calling me and saying they've reached that point.
Yeah. 2 trips ago, the coach galley came up and said, can I retire right now? No, because then I have to do your job. Get back there. So that's you get those 3 things. Then you've got to retire. Well, how and when? How? Well, we've already talked about that mandatory form. You will find that on Crew Portal Department's in-flight administration forms. Everything's going through Crew Portal now. When? If you're electing the retirement health reimbursement account, and that's where you take your sick bank and turn it half the value of that into a health reimbursement account. So you get reimbursed, just like your flex spending account works. If you're going to do that, then you have to give 4 months notice. If you're not doing that, then no notice is required. You still have to fill out the form because that's actually how the whole system knows to turn on your retiree JetNet and so on. But that's how and when. As a matter of fact, this is what that form looks like. And you'll notice the very first question is are you notifying us to initiate retirement, or are you notifying us to cancel, rescind retirement? Because they know we change our mind a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, look, that's me retiring. Yay. Oh, no, okay. So, yeah. And
also with the retiree health reimbursement account, people go 50% of the full value. We wish it was 100%, but I did the math on somebody who was at the top of the pay scale and they had 40 hours of sick time, and they, were planning on just leaving it there. They had lots of vacation and stuff. And I did the math, the 40 hours of sick time was worth $1,600. I mean, so even if you have a small amount of sick time, it might not be a bad thing to do the RHRA or elect it just in case if you feel like notifying the company 4 months out. And you can still use your sick time if you need it as you go along, but whatever's left in there, you'll get the, 50% of the full value, which is better than $8.65 per sick hour.
Yeah. I had a flight attendant I talked to 2 weeks ago, and they had over 1,000 hours of sick time. And I'm like, okay, well, you're either going to have this huge healthcare reimbursement account, or you're not going to show up for work for 2 years. So pays your money, takes your chances, sort of thing. So how do you do that? If you want that 50%, you have to fill out the form 4 months in advance. If you don't want the RHRA, there's no specific notice requirement. We recommend giving 2 weeks to 30 days notice, but again, it's not required. And with that RHRA, I said it's kind of like the flex spending account, and it looks a lot like it because it's still administered by Fidelity and with the card and everything. And if you already have an RHRA account because you have that plus plan, which again isn't most of us, but a lot of people do, then there's no notice required to keep the RHRA. You get that even if you don't do the 4 month notice. So that makes it a little easier.
Yeah, so right now there's 2 ways to get the RHRA. One is by the contractual agreement where you can put your sick time, 50% of the full value in there. And the other way is signing up for the plus plan during benefits enrollment. And I think you have to go to your primary care visit and you get a certain amount in your RHRA. And so if you got that one, you don't have to notify 4 months in advance unless you want both, and they'll combine it for you.
Exactly. All right, that's a lot. Let's do questions. Kim, do we have any questions?
We have a few questions. So, to whom would I turn to find out my eligible date of retirement? I'll take that one. That is the 65-point plan, and there's two ways you can double check whether you're eligible for the 65-point plan. There's now this really cool 65-point plan calculator on JetNet. So if you go onto JetNet to the homepage and you scroll down before all the newsy, rah-rah, go, Robert Isom, stuff, you can find team member services. And under team member services, you'll see a retirement section. You click on that, and one of the things listed in there is the 65-point plan calculator. And you just put in your name and your employee number, and that will do a little calculation and tell you if you're eligible or not. And the other way you can do it is by calling team member services. You call 1-800-447-2000. And you follow the prompts until you get to retirement services, and they will verify whether you're eligible and when you'll be eligible for the 65-point plan if you're not there yet. So that's the best way, one of those ways to do it. All right, next question. We will see if there's one for this section. Okay. If you give the company notice and you ultimately decide not to follow through with the retirement, are you able to stop the process? And if so, how close to the original setup retirement date, if that applies? You want to get that one, Patrick?
That is such a flight attendant question.
Yeah.
How close to the
How
deadline
long
can
can I waffle
get? Yeah.
about it?
You know, it's like bids close at noon Dallas time on the 15th, and at 11:46 there's like 4,000
That would be
trying
me.
to put their bids in. Yeah. So it's such a flight attendant question. You have to give notice at least the day prior. So I always say, if you're leaving on Friday, you have to consider Wednesday night at midnight your deadline. I don't know that you could give it on Thursday and get away with it. So I would say at least one day prior to your actual retirement date. So
don't push it. Once that day, once it crosses into that day, it's too late to change it.
No, if you said Friday and it's Friday 001, you're gone. So all right.
All right. So
any other questions?
See if there are any others for this section. Our thing didn't shuffle the way it was supposed to.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm in a situation between IOD and taking retirement. 58 years old, 30 years with the company, and I've been off work over 2 years. I may not be able to come back to work. How do I start the process for retirement? Okay, there's two things, that retirement notification form we discussed, that is the normal notification process for retirement. If you're thinking about taking a work comp settlement, then the work comp settlement document that you sign off on and AA signs off on and all the attorneys sign off on, that's your official notification. So if you sign a work comp settlement agreement, that's a legal document by which you're notifying the company that you agree to retire with when you take that settlement. So you don't have to do the retirement notification form and all that if you sign off on a work comp settlement. Now, some people, when they're on an IOD and they're going to take a settlement, they tell their attorney, hey, is it okay if I just go ahead and retire and then sign off on the settlement to get whatever I'm going to get, but don't include retirement as part of it because I'm already going to retire. Sometimes your attorney might want to use a strategy saying, hey, because of this injury, you had to retire. And kind of a 6.5 of one and a dozen of the other, the attorney might say, no, it's better to say I had to retire because of this injury. So talk to your attorney, figure out which way is going to work best for you. You can retire prior and still work on the settlement, or you can take a settlement, and if you do, then that's your retirement notification. So is that as clear as mud? I hope
Yes,
so.
it is.
Now, legal minds, anything else to say about that?
The only thing is I always try to make sure that I have a paper trail when I do anything with the company that's really important.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to do the rescission, I would not only send in the rescission form, the same form, but you tick the box rescind. I would also email my supervisor and I would email is Flight Attendant Service, which is the one that had the
Yeah.
Absence and Leave Center,
Absence and return.
Absence and Return Center, and just make sure that everyone got an email that said, "Hey, just in case you missed it when this came through."
But if you're if you sign a work comp agreement,
Oh,
you're
and-
not going to rescind.
Right, if you sign the work comp
You're
agreement,
kind of locked in.
you are kind of locked in, and I would go ahead and once again, make sure that I had sent an email to my supervisor saying, hey, you should know that we've reached a settlement and I'm leaving.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more for you, Patrick. Is there a list of items that must be returned to the company upon separation, i.e. uniforms, et cetera? Not uniforms.
Not uniforms, but a couple of things. A, your ID, because you're not a crew member anymore. And we'll talk about the retiree ID in a minute. So you have to return you have to return your jet bridge, and we used to call them cockpit
Equipment
keys.
keys.
Equipment key. Yes, your jet bridge equipment key. Your tablet.
Your tablet.
And all of the accessories that they gave you with that.
If you have a commuter parking tag or an airport parking tag, they want that.
They want that, yes.
So what you can do if you are A, a commuter, B, you've been out on medical leave, C, you just don't want to go back to the airport, you can email your manager or anybody in management. If you can't reach your manager, which a lot of people can't these days,
Who is my manager?
try the MOT. But if you email them or call them, they can email you a FedEx shipping label along with the list of the things you have to return. And you don't have to do that before you retire. You have 30 days after your retirement date to get all that stuff back to the company. So.
Yes. All right. I think that's a pretty exhaustive list. I had someone ask me a couple of weeks ago, do I have to return my change fund? Made me giggle. All right.
All right. Moving right along.
Moving right along. So, Kim, what do you get in retirement?
Okay. So some of these things we may have touched upon already, but what do you get in retirement? You get your travel privileges. Yay. You get paid out for your sick and vacation. You get the option to elect the RHRA. That's what we've touched upon already. Now you get a fabulous retirement gift. You get the status of being an American Airlines retirement. And you get the option to purchase some really, really expensive medical insurance if you separate from the company between ages 55 and 65 and you're not yet eligible for Medicare. So let's talk about our travel benefits. You get your D1, D2R, D2P, D3, AA 20% discount, and 20% off Advantage tickets. So that's good. And you notice the D1 does not have an R after it. So you get the same number of D1s that you had as an active employee and no R. So when you're using your D1, you're just out there with everybody else that's non-revving. But the D2R is unlimited. The D1, you get the 3 round trips or 6 one-ways. And the D3s, you get half the number that you had as an active employee. All right, so all non-rev travels booked through non-rev travel planner, which is accessible via the AA Retirees website. After you retire, you no longer have access to JetNet. They're going to switch you over to the Retirees website, which is www.retirees.aa.com. Service charges and taxes are charged to your credit card just like they are now. And when you get on a flight, they'll take the card, but they won't charge you unless you get on a flight. And as we point out in here, if you get on a flight, it's becoming more and more common to have to wait for several flights before you get on. A pro tip is if your D3s are traveling, make them use their own credit card so you don't get charged. Your Z travel is also booked via the My ID travel link, which is on the retiree site. Fortunately, this is a really sad thing for all of us when we retired. No more jump seat authority and no more KCM. We have to wait in line with everybody else.
But I'm a flight attendant. I can't wait in line.
You have to wait in line, man. And there are some non-rev friendly travel agencies. We're going to update our list, but Perks and Dargal merge. It's just Perks. So if you want cruises, I've talked to a lot of people that have taken some really cool cruises that way. There's also some other things. There's something called Staff Traveler, and it's a little app you put on your phone. And if you're going to try and travel on another airline, you can put a little message out, and a flight attendant that works for that airline will check the loads, because you know how hard it is to read those loads in non-rev travel planner. I mean, yeah, I'm not on my ID travel. It's like, what does that mean? So you can actually get a message from somebody that's working at the airline that will tell you how many seats are on the plane. It's a very useful tool. So I'm going to add it to our information on the retiree site.
Cool.
Anyway, also, pre-check global entry. If you know you're going to retire in the next year or so and your pre-check is expiring, go ahead and let the company pay for it one more time before you submit your retirement notification. After you submit it, they probably won't. So, and the same thing goes for your uniform points. Obviously, they're not going to let you order more stuff. Probably if you notify them 6 months out and you're still going to be flying for 6 months, but 4 months and after, they probably won't let you use the uniform points anymore. So do all that stuff. And another thing, your nonstop things, you want to use those before you go as well. Because
how many blue sweaters can I use over the rest of my life?
I don't know. That's up to you, Patrick. All right, sick time and vacation. Your unused sick time is paid out at $8.65 per sick hour. Boo. All unused and accrued vacation. So unused vacation means vacation you've already bid for, but you're going to retire before that date comes up. Accrued vacation, you're earning all along during the year that you retire. So for every month that you're active, you're going to accrue some vacation, and you get paid out for that as well. You don't have to wait for the end of the year to get that accrued vacation. If you retire on July 1st, you're going to get everything you've accrued between January 1st and July 1st. A lot of people think you have to wait to the end of the year. And some people wait to the end of the year because they want a full year of accrued vacation, but you can retire anytime and you'll get all of your accrued vacation paid out. It's contractual. Unfortunately, the vacation accrual, when it's paid out after you retire, is not eligible for the employer 401k contribution and match. However, it is eligible for employee 401k deduction. So if you up your election for your 401k prior to your retirement, you could have all or most of that vacation pay go into your 401k. Something to think about with 401k deductions, and Patrick will talk about it later, but remember when you're electing maybe to have 100% of your 401k to go into 100% of your income or your vacation to go into your 401k, payroll deductions are coming out of that while you're working. So some people get in a situation where after they retire, they get a bill for benefits or union dues or something. So if you're having 100% go into your 401k, maybe lower it to like 80 or 85%, just so you have enough for your payroll deductions to come out and you're not zinged with the bill that you didn't expect after you retire. All right, and then you could change your 401k deduction amount on the Fidelity website. All right, so the Retiree Health Reimbursement Arrangement, RHRA. So you must be eligible for the 65-point plan. You must notify the company 4 months in advance in order to put 50% of the full value of your accumulated sick hours into the RHRA. The RHRA is what's known as a notional account. That means there's no actual money in the account. It's not sitting there cash you can take with you. However, it's credit for reimbursement. So once you submit a claim and show that you've had an eligible medical expense, then you can be reimbursed. So it's kind of like money, but it's not actual cash sitting in an account. The RHRA is administered by Fidelity, just like the pensions and the health spending account. And the list of eligible expenses is found on the IRS website. So let us know. We've got a few more questions about the RHRA that we'll answer after this. Okay, retirement gift. there's a little picture of the retirement gift catalog that you get.
Oh.
You get it about 60 days after you retire. So it's getting further out, it seems like, from your retirement date. You'll also get a little certificate with your years of service. Hopefully they'll get it right. And options include a wide array of dust catchers such as glass plaques, jewelry, all kinds of things. Tiffany's.
Whoa.
I think there was a few little charms from Tiffany's or something in there. So pretty cool. And you can give yourself, again, a gift by using your nonstop thanks prior to your retirement. And here's an example of one of the gifts, the fabulous crystal American Airlines tail. If you want that sitting on your shelf, it is an option. So,
and a lot of our people think a pretty tail's important.
yes, they do. And also there's an option to donate to Wings in lieu of taking a gift. And you can't do that before. You have to wait for the catalog to arrive. And I think the catalog also has a website in there. And if there may be some things on the website that aren't showing up in the catalog. So look on the website too. And the option to donate to Wings may be on the website. All right, your status is going to be changing. You're going to be going from Sky Goddess to
that's me.
Cat Rancher. That's what me and Patrick aspire to be in our retirement. Woohoo! So basically, if you want a retiree ID, you're going to submit an online request, and you can do it either prior to your retirement on JetNet. You use it for discounts, shipping, hotels, car rentals, like your FedEx discount, for example. And you can do it after retirement on the retirees website. So either or, if you don't get around to doing it because you're so busy before retirement, you can still do it after. They don't send it to you automatically. Nothing really happens automatically these days. So you'll have to submit the request for that on your own. A government-issued photo ID is still required for travel, so you don't use this retiree ID for travel purposes. You can wear it, and maybe the flight attendants will give you wine, but it's not required for travel. You use your
water.
Water, yes, a big bottle of water, or government-issued ID. That's what you use for your travel, so your passport or your driver's license. Access to the AA retiree site is one of the perks of being a retiree. And again, that's www.retirees.aa.com. And they do have deals and discounts on that site too. The payroll access will be on there. So the employee pay portal, because unfortunately you still got to pay your taxes. So
dang it.
Bummer. And if there's archive of e-pays and paperless pay, if you need that information, I'm not sure how far it goes back, but it's far enough to do several years worth of taxes if you've been a little bit forgetful. And there's detailed sequence history will not be available. So if you want to keep that information, you should print it up prior to your retirement. All right. So some people have to decide they need to leave the company or they want to leave the company, but they're not eligible to retire. Well, you can just quit. Basically, what you do if you're quitting is simply give notice to your flight service manager or your crew manager or your attendance manager or your performance manager. Choose one of the three, which is the one to give that notification form. Obviously, I don't think they have a quitting notification form.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
They'll come up with it.
Your vacation will still be paid out, your unpaid and accrued vacation at the contractual rate. Again, that's contractual. However, and if you're a legacy AA and you qualify for a pension, you contact Fidelity to find out when you might be able to draw that pension, depending on your vesting. If you're legacy US, you contact the PBGC to find out the same information about when you can start your pension. Since you're not a retiree and you're not eligible for the 65-point plan, you're not able to use that sick time. You won't be paid out for the sick time and you won't be eligible for the RHRA, unfortunately. All right, more questions. Let's see if we've got any.
All right, the first one's for you. How
Okay.
do you actually use, you told us about this RHRA, but I've got this bill from my doctor. How do I use it? How do I actually get reimbursed?
Okay, so you go to the Fidelity website and you sign in, you see the page where it shows your 401k. And if you have a Legacy A pension, it'll be on there. And then under that, it will say health account. So you click on that and you'll see your RHRA credit. And there's several links to instructions for submitting a reimbursement on the Fidelity website. So that's what you got to do. You're going to have to take a picture and upload, or they'll tell you different ways that you can submit proof that you've had an eligible healthcare expense. And then once you do that, you can put in your bank account for direct deposit and have it go in there. That's usually safer than getting a check in the mail these days. So that's pretty much how you use it. And it's a little bit of a learning curve when you first do it, but all the people that took the VOP during COVID and got the RHRA and people that have retired since then have said it's a really useful thing. So it's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you got it down, it works pretty well.
I actually had one of those VOP people tell me something cool. I'm going to put it in there as a pro tip, and that is they were using the RHRA MasterCard to pay all their vendors, and that was just done, except if you use it with a vendor like an eye doctor, they don't know whether it was for prescription glasses or those pretty cool sunglasses. So they're going to require you provide a receipt. If you use it for the podiatrist, they're pretty sure that was medical, so they don't always ask for a receipt on that. But anytime you see a dentist, eyes, or anything, that they're going to request a receipt. But what this flight attendant told me is that they've stopped doing that. They now use their Citibank Advantage card, pay for it, get the miles, get the receipt, and get reimbursed. They submit the reimbursement. I'm not sure Advantage miles are worth all of that monkeying around, but they thought so. So that's kind of a pro tip there. All right, here's your next question. I recently retired, and I was very disappointed with the lack of information given to me from the company. Don't they have a checklist of what to expect, what to do, how the RHRA works for us? I had to research all this information myself, and I was given conflicting misinformation from different people in the company at times. Yes.
Welcome to our world.
Which is why your union has prepared a checklist on what to do and how to retire and information about how all of those things work. So.
And we're really, really trying to get the company to do their job and provide all this stuff. You know, we don't think we should be doing their job for them. However, we're trying to consolidate everything so you have it all in one place. So, you know, some things, unfortunately, you have to get from the company, but we will try and put as many tips out there as possible to make all of this easier for you. So, yeah. And we're getting ready to do a pretty big revamp of our packet and the website and everything for 2026. So if you have any suggestions, let us know.
Gee, that almost seems like your union cares for you more than the company does.
We do.
Yes. Okay, Patrick, I forgot how vacation is accrued. You accrue based on the chart, and let's assuming we're all going to accrue 30, we're all the seniority that we get 35 days a year. You will accrue 1/12 of 35 days for every month that you are active for 16 days or more. So let's assume you're active for 10 months. So you'll get 10/12 of 35 days worth of accrual. Well, cool. But I bid last year, and I bid to take most of my vacation next year in January, February, and March. So do I get paid for that? Yes. Do I get paid for what accrued that I haven't even bid for? Yes. So you could actually get 70 days of vacation paid if you had all of your vacation in the following calendar year, plus the 35 you've accrued. You leave at the end of the year and get 35. You could get 70 days of vacation at 4 hours a day times $84 an hour. That could be a nice going away bonus. Yeah. So
well, some people like to spread their vacation out over the year, like do 5 days in 7 months, you know, of their 5 days in 7 months, and then bid low and not fly as much. And that way their income's lower and they might not be assessed IRMA.
Oh, yes, yes.
IRMA is sometimes when you retire, you have to pay a little bit more for your Medicare. And maybe if you're flying lower time before you retire, you could avoid that. So there's all kinds of tricks out there.
Speaking of that vacation payout, if I retire on December 31st and I'm getting my full 35 days plus any that I bid but haven't taken yet, when do I get that? Well, theoretically, I mean, they've got like 30 days or 45 days to get it to you. And some, depending on how busy they are, sometimes it comes quicker.
Lately, it's been like if you were to retire on January 1st, it's the 15th of the following month. So you would get it on February 15th.
Yes. Just like any other premiums for the month of January, you get on your January or your February 15th check. And I think they're trying to get it to be more, but it has been that you get your last check, which is whatever you flew, like anything you flew in December over the 70 hours that you got in advance on, you get paid on your January 15th check plus your premium galley, purser, language, international. You'll get that on your January 15th check. And then at some point down the road, probably on February 15th, you'll get your final check, and your final check will include your vacation, any sick if you took the $8.65 an hour, plus they'll subtract anything you owe them. You have unpaid service charges or something, so they'll try and get it all reconciled and on that final check. So some people get confused between my last paycheck and my final check. The theory is that they're eventually going to be so automated that it'll all come right away, but I'm not going to live.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice. I'm not going to live that long. All right. What else we got here?
All right.
Hey, let's talk about income. What about income?
That's your deal.
All right. Hey, in retirement, you're going to have multiple streams of income. You're going to have your 401k, you're going to have your IRA, you're going to have Social Security, and yes, you'll get Social Security. We'll talk about that.
I love it when he talks about money.
Yeah. I just smell the hundreds. You're going to have savings, and savings has some really weird things. It's not just cash in the bank. It may be equity. We'll look at that as well. And if you have a pension, you'll have a pension. So if you've got those 5 different sources of income, I think of it as like a 5-legged stool. And the advantage to a 5-legged stool is it's really stable. If one of those legs gets kicked out from underneath you, let's say Social Security, let's say that our Congress, who can't seem to get anything done, decides the way to fix Social Security is to prevent people who don't deserve it as much as others because, like, you saved money. You have money in a 401k. Yeah, you don't need as much Social Security.
What?
Yeah, you have a pension that we gave your employer a tax break on. You don't need as much Social Security.
No.
Oh, yeah. You don't think that could happen? Do you remember Social Security used to start its full Social Security age was 65, and now your full retirement age is somewhere between 65 and 67, and they're talking about moving it out yet again.
No.
Yeah. But if that were to happen, they kick that out from underneath you. You'd be okay if you've got the other 4 sources of income. It's not that it's not going to hurt. It's not that it's not going to impact your lifestyle, but you're not going to be destitute. And every time I see this list and think about that, I am so glad that I work for a labor union that actually cares about my financial future and makes sure that all of these options are available for me out there and pushes for me to take advantage of all of those options, because I contrast that with the about 50% of people on Social Security that's all they've got. I mean, how secure is your financial life if your whole financial life depends on the good graces of the U.S. Congress? Oh my God. Yeah. So happy to be a union member with a union that cares. So, hey, what about that 401k loan I've got? Well, you've got a couple of options. The first is you just continue to pay the loan back on the current amortization schedule. And because you don't have a paycheck, you have to go in and set it up to come out of your checking account, auto draft out of your checking account. And that's probably the best way to do that. The SX option is you stop making payments, and anything that you still owe will all of a sudden transform from a loan to a taxable distribution. And if you're not yet 59 and a half, that taxable distribution will be penalized for taking an early withdrawal. So that's the worst option you can do. The best option is just continue to pay it back. One last thing to remember, your 401k is going to freeze for that first 30 days of after you exit from the company. And I mean freeze solid. You're not going to be able to add money, take money out, change your investment options. And therefore, if you are going to need money in that first 30 days after retirement, you should consider rolling the money out now, or some money out now, so that you have access to that during the first 30 days. I do want to point out that if you need money during the first 30 days of retirement, you may not be ready yet. So talk to your financial planner. You can also roll your 401k into an IRA, a new 401k, or leave it with and manage it through Fidelity. A lot of people look at the options they have out there and just leave it with Fidelity. The cost, the overhead for your 401k, how much you pay the company to manage it for you, is based on how many people are in the 401k. And America's got a huge 401k. So frequently you'll look at the chart. We pay $100 a year for them to administer all of our online investment, all of that stuff. So it's frequently people will just leave it there because it's their best option, but talk to a financial planner.
And that comes out of your, what your 401k balance.
Right.
You don't really see it, but it does come out of that.
Yeah, it's embedded in there, which I wish they were more explicit with it. But every time we go and check, that's actually what they're charging us.
And if you're using their services, like you're having them manage your 401k, that doesn't change after you retire. They're not gonna start sending you a bill or anything. They just keep taking it out like they always have.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
'Cause I did have that question the other day.
Oh, good question, actually. Okay, let's talk about IRAs. You have pre-tax and post-tax, which was the original Roth. Now we have a Roth 401k as well, but you have your pre-tax and Roth IRA, and you can do that in addition to your 401k. The issue is that there are income limits. So if you're single and making more than $150,000 a year, I flew with a couple of those people on my last trip. They fly 150 hours a month. I drool. Or 236,000 married filing jointly, which could easily happen. If you exceed that, then you can't make contributions. I had a neighbor call the other day and say, they won't let me contribute for 2024. I'm like, because you made too much money. Cry me a river. Yeah. So there is, however, no income limits with 401k. So you really want to probably try and fund your 401k first, but talk to a financial planner.
But there is a change. There aren't any income limits, but there's a change coming for 2026, where if you make more than a certain amount, and you're doing catch-up contributions, right? Your catch-up contributions are going to have to go into a Roth.
Yes.
Okay.
And that way they can tax it now. Yes, because they're all about the taxes.
So we're going to try and put more information about that when we get the 2026 information. Hasn't been finalized for all that. It's out there and people think they know how much it's going to be, but it hasn't been finalized by the IRS. But once we get that information, that will be in our updated packet.
Yes, yes. And you would think that it's like November 11th that they'd have that information out already, but not yet. One of the other things is conversion. You can convert your 401k into an IRA. And as you get closer to retirement, you'll start having a lot of financial people tell you, oh, that's a wonderful idea. You should convert your 401k into an IRA and let me manage it and charge you fees.
Yay.
There may be some motivation on their part about that charging you fees that they can't charge you if you leave your money over at Fidelity. But I had a financial guy try to convince me a couple of months ago that I needed to roll my 401k into an IRA because I had so many more options. And I said, well, I've got this brokerage window. I can buy anything that's available on a U.S. stock exchange. What can you do for me? Well, they couldn't come up with a good answer.
You
so
can buy anything that's available on the stock exchange.
Yeah. And I said, well, there is one thing that I can tell you I can't buy in the 401k that I can buy in the IRA. He said, oh, good. What? I said, AMR stock. And I'm like, and I have no plans to do that.
Not now anyway.
And I'm not talking insider information here. I'm just looking at the stock performance over the last 10 years and probably not going to add that to my portfolio. Thank you very much. Also, you
We
need,
would love it to be doing better though, and we're
Yeah, I
all
would-
trying to make it do
yeah.
better.
I would love for it to just
Take off.
I still have some of those shares from the bankruptcy, so I would love for it to go, back up to $100 a share, and I could actually cash those in. The other thing about conversion is that the 401k and the IRAs are very different products. We tend to think of them as pretty much kind of the same. They both have pre-tax, post-tax Roth. They're kind of the same. They're not actually. The 401k is a function of federal law, and therefore it's covered under ERISA, which is the Federal Pension Protection Act. And that gives you a lot of benefits that the IRA may or may not have, because IRAs are a function of state law. So for an example, if someone sues you and they're trying to take all your money, the 401k under ERISA is 100% protected from it being seized by judgment creditors, which is someone that sued you. The IRA, it depends on where you live. I think it's actually Michigan that has you get to keep the first 50,000 of your IRA, and the person who sued you gets the rest. So that may or may not be the best thing for you. The other thing is the way people inherit money in a 401k is different than the way they inherit money in IRA. I don't know that one's superior to the other, but they are different. So don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, it's just the same thing with a different label. It's not. A conversion may be very good for you. It may not. But make sure that whoever's giving you advice on that is giving you advice that's best for you. So that person that's giving you advice, how are they getting paid? If they're doing it for free, they're not. So they're getting money out of the products they sell you. I much prefer to use a fee for service financial planner. So I go into my financial planner and I say, how much are you going to charge me to tell me what to invest in next year in my 401k? And they say $312. Right. Therefore, they're going to get $312 whether they give me good advice or bad advice, and whether they give me advice that would make them money or me money. And so I'm kind of convinced that their advice they're going to give me is going to be the best available that they know for me. So make sure when you talk to a financial planner, you know how they're getting paid, and make sure if you convert from an IRA, 401k to an IRA, you know what you're giving up and what you're getting. We did discover a couple of years ago that you can actually convert back. That if you go to 401k to an IRA before you retire, you can roll it back into the 401k. Why would I want to do that? Oh, well, one of the things that's different is that when you reach a certain age, you start having to take money out of your account. So it's called required minimum distributions, or RMDs. If you reach that age, which right now is 73, and you have required minimum distributions from your 401k, but you still work for that employer, you do not have to take RMDs. However, if you have rolled your 401k into an IRA, you must take RMDs. So at that point, I really would rather it not be an IRA. I'd rather it be a 401k. And then once you retire, there's some reasons you'd want things to be in an IRA, not 401k. Just make sure you know what you're giving up. So, Kim, let's talk questions.
Okay, 401k questions. Let's see what we've got. Okay, can you explain the difference between and the benefits of each of 401k and IRA? That's a little bit what we
just kind of did
about.
that. Yeah.
Also share how we can use a brokerage link account within our 401k account. How does that work?
That's actually pretty cool. You know how in the 401k you can invest in, and they give you like 22 different, you can invest in, international small cap, domestic large cap, domestic bond funds. There's all these different options. One of those options is the brokerage link. Now, you have to open a brokerage link account because the rules are different. So you fill out the application online, you get the brokerage link, and then you say, okay, move, let's say $100,000 into my brokerage link account. You now, in that brokerage link account, can buy any stocks, bonds, any legal investments except for AMR stock available in the United States stock markets. So say you really, really want to buy NVIDIA stock. You can do that in the brokerage link. Once you've opened your brokerage link, you get a little link in Fidelity that says, hey, I want to make this investment. Click in NVIDIA. I want to buy $50,000 worth of NVIDIA. Bam, you now have that in your 401k account through that brokerage link. So the steps are you click on the I want to open a brokerage link, fill out the form. Once it's all done and approved, it becomes just another investment option on the main screen. If you put money into it, you get a sub screen in which you can purchase any stock or investment vehicle available on a U.S. Exchange.
So you can do stocks and like mutual funds.
Stocks, mutual funds, ETFs.
Mhm.
That's one of the most popular actually in a brokerage link account is ETFs. We won't go into that, but you can do like there are ETFs. Say you think things are not going to go well for the rest of the year and you want to go to a relatively defensive position, like buy commodities, you can buy an ETF that is basically you're buying commodities. So really cool.
Talk to your financial planner.
Yeah, talk to a financial.
Okay, one more question. I was just told that we can direct our 401k savings into the Roth without normal regard to annual Roth contribution limits. Is that true?
I think the magic word they're looking for is
well, I currently max out my 401k, my Roth IRA contributions in a separate account. And I thought I couldn't do more than that because I had the Roth IRA, and he wasn't really aware that there was a Roth 401k in addition. And he's asking if he can max out both.
Yes, you can max out your IRA, you can max out the 401k, and within each of those buckets, you get to choose whether or not it's going to be maxed out with Roth, maxed out with traditional, or some combination thereof. So one of the real common ones I see is within the 401k, they put 90% of their 401k contributions into the Roth and 10% into the regular. I don't know why they do that, but I see that regularly. And so the 401k, which is much, much higher than the IRA max, would allow you to put a whole lot more money into a Roth, a 401k Roth, than you could put into your IRA Roth, or like this flight attendant, fund them both.
Okay, I think that's all we have for now.
All right. So, Kim, what can you tell us about Social Security?
Okay, Social Security. Basically, it may be taken as early as age 62, as late as age 70. There's just no increase after age 70. So even if you're still working, go ahead and take it because you're leaving money on the table otherwise. If you don't need it, you can invest it, put it in savings, put it in a Roth IRA, whatever you think is appropriate. But anyway, the website for Social Security is www.ssa.gov, and you can go on there and set up your My SSA account, and it will show you basically what your early Social Security number would be, what your full Social Security at age 67, for example, and how much it would increase if you waited till age 70 to take it. So it's very useful to go on there and look at those things before you retire. Married couples have some complicated decisions on how and when to draw their Social Security. Basically, if you're single, I think you've got 9. And if you're married, you've got like potentially 81 different options to take your Social Security.
My head hurts.
I know, my head hurts too. Talk to a Social Security advisor. I have no idea what those options are or which would be the best. And I'm going to talk to one before I retire. Social Security advisors, such as we suggest, they are really good to talk to, and you can get them through like government websites in your state. I think they can provide you with the list. Also, there are apps that you can use to show you how to optimize your Social Security benefits. And Patrick's an app guy, so he probably has a couple of those on his phone already.
At least two.
Okay, so what are the pros and cons of taking your Social Security early at age 62? One pro is you get more years of payments. So that could be a good thing depending on your situation. Another pro, you can get the money if you need it now. Say you have to retire early because of a disability, or you're taking care of someone in your family and they need you, you can get that money now, even though you're not 67 yet, or 65 in some situations. Con is that you have lower payments for the rest of your life. So that is something to think about. Another, downside is you are subject to income limits until you hit your full Social Security age, which we refer to as SSNRA, Social Security Normal Retirement Age. So that means if you're working after you start your early Social Security and you make more than a certain amount, you're going to get taxed higher on everything over that amount. In 2025, if you make more than $23,400, then you deduct $1 of benefits for every $2 that you earn over that limit. So think about that if you're planning to work after you retire. The break-even point, where between early and Social Security it kind of levels out, is the average age of death, which is about 78 and a half, something like that. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we ask ourselves, when am I going to die? Who wants to think about that? But we kind of need to. Okay, so when should I start? Here's a chart that illustrates what I was just talking about. And the blue line is someone that started their Social Security at age 62 early. And then the red line's the ones that started at age 66. When do the lines cross? The average age of death. So if you're like Patrick's uncles that, started going gray and maybe died before they found out if they were going to lose their hair, maybe you should have taken it at 62. If you're like my grandmother that got a new car at 89, maybe you would get more if you waited longer. So just depends on your personal situation. All right. Full Social Security at SSNRA, normal Social Security retirement age. So there are special one-time limits for the year that you reach your normal Social Security retirement age. So for the months before your birthday, the limit on earnings from work is a bit higher because they try and take it into account that some people are going to retire partway through the year and they don't want to ding them too much on taxes. They'll still ding you, but not as much. The limit for 2025 is $62,160 in income before those income limits kick in.
Wait. That means that someone who turns Social Security normal retirement age in February can earn up to $62,000 in that year, because after you turn full retirement age, it doesn't matter. But someone that returns full retirement age in December has that same 62,000. That's not fair.
Yeah, I know. Timing. It's all about timing. Yeah. Talk to your financial advisor about when the best time for you to retire might be, and they will have some very good suggestions. All right, so people always ask, when's my Social Security normal retirement age? Well, for anybody born in 1960 and later, it's 67. If you were born prior to 1960, you can see here 66 and so many months, depending on what year you were born in.
All right.
What counts as earnings for Social Security?
That's an interesting question, because we were just saying that, the earnings kind of limit things. Well, earnings include income from wages or net earnings from self-employment. So like if you've got that little side gig, you're selling tchotchkes down at the White Elephant, that's net earnings from self-employment. They also include bonus, commissions, severance pay, anything that you're getting from an employer or an employment situation, no matter what you call it, is pretty much going to be considered earnings. But here's the good news. Earnings do not include investment income, pensions, capital gains, inheritances. Therefore, dividends and capital gains won't negatively affect your Social Security benefits directly. So remember, we were looking at the income limit for early Social Security is 29,000, I think that was. I
think it was lower.
I think it was lower. Cheat and go back.
Maybe, yeah, go back.
23.4, you were right. Ha, she's always right. It's so helpful. 23,000. So you could be having, $100,000 worth of capital gains and dividends and all that stuff spinning off out of your investments, and you could still qualify to take your Social Security early without penalty because that doesn't count as earnings. You can also start your pension. That doesn't count as earnings. So I do want to point out that if you are flying 40 hours, we now make $84 an hour, that's $40,000 at the lowest amount you can fly. So yeah, it's very, very unlikely that you're going to continue to be able to fly and draw your Social Security early and not end up paying some sort of penalty because your earnings are going to be much higher than the limit. So one of the other questions we get all the time is there tax on Social Security? Well, what time of the day is it? This is changing rapidly, but here's where we are today. Now, this may change on January 1st, but here's where we are today. The first 15% of your Social Security is tax-free, and that's true of everyone. Bill Gates doesn't pay Social Security on the first 15% of his Social Security, and he doesn't know it, doesn't care. You may pay tax on either 0, 50%, or 85% of the rest, and that's not the tax rate. That's how much of that Social Security is going to get taxed based on how much your Social Security and other income, the combined income. And again, this is how much of it's going to get taxed, not the tax rate. So, what are the break points? If you're single and you make between 25 and 34,000, which includes your Social Security and your other income, then you're going to pay tax on 50% of the Social Security. If you're making more than 34,000, it's going to be the full 85%. Because remember, that first 15% is always tax-free. Well, that's my federal taxes. Do I pay state tax? In 37 states, your Social Security is state tax-free. 13 states do tax some or all of your Social Security, and they're the 13 bad boys. Why is this important? Well,
I always wanted to retire in Colorado.
I'm right there with you. My alternative may be Michigan because I don't see them on the list there. So when you're thinking about retiring or where am I going to live, this may be important because how much you have left to spend after taxes is going to be lower in these 13 states. So yeah, you want to think about that. How about savings? Remember, we were talking, you've got all these different sources of income. Savings is in addition to cash, stocks, bonds, which is what we normally think of when we think of savings. There are hidden savings, for instance, your home equity. And there are a couple of ways to tap that. The worst way is going to be a reverse mortgage. They're real. I mean, it's kind of like, selling a kidney. If you got to do it, you got to do it, but it's really not a good idea. So I try not to make people who've done it feel bad about it, but there are very few reverse mortgages that make economic sense in the long run. The fees are always very high. The interest rate, the interest amount, which in a traditional mortgage starts out really high. It's like 95% of your payment is interest, and then it gets lower and lower. With a reverse mortgage, it's reverse. It starts out kind of low, but then by the time you're, just before you die, you're paying these huge amounts of interest, which are all accruing against your equity. So that's one way. I don't recommend it. The other way is kind of interesting. You own this $500,000 home in the suburbs with 2 acres of lawn, and you don't want to mow anymore. If you sell that and buy a $200,000 apartment or condo or townhouse where you don't have to mow the lawn. And when you did that, you just freed up $300,000 of equity. So that's one way to get it. The other is life insurance. And by that, I don't mean, your spouse dies a mysterious death that you have a good alibi for, but rather a lot of life insurance policies accumulate cash value. And when you get to a certain age, you don't really need the life insurance anymore because you had life insurance because you had kids, you need to pay for their college, they're all gone, that's done. You need to pay.
Making more money than you are.
Yeah, exactly. And not sharing it. Ungrateful. But anyway, so there may be cash value that you can borrow from or just decide, I don't need life insurance anymore. Why are these people going to get a big bonus when I'm dead and I'm reaching every month to pay these premiums. So you just cash it out. Now, the life insurance you're much more familiar with is called term life insurance. And that's like what we get from American Airlines. And it says during this period, this term, did you die? If you die, you win. Oh, or wait.
I don't want to die.
Yeah. No. Okay. So if you don't die, you win, but you don't get paid. If you do die, I guess you lose, but the insurance pays out. So there's no cash value in it.
It's like your house, your homeowner's insurance or your car insurance.
Yeah,
if something happens while you have the coverage, it will pay out, but it doesn't acquire a cash value.
Correct. If you have a crash with your car while the coverage is in effect, like my mother-in-law did this weekend, then it pays. If you don't have a crash, you don't get anything back. So yeah.
But the other life insurance, whole life, that's the kind that can have a cash value.
Correct. All right, Kim, what can you tell us about pensions?
Okay, so if you have a pension, guess what? It's going to depend on who you got that pension from, and which carrier you started out with prior to the merger. So you got the Legacy US Airways and everything that became Legacy US Airways. And then you have the Legacy AA and everything that later became AA. So if you started out with US Airways, you could have started out with Piedmont, Allegheny, Trump Shuttle, PSA. And I talked to somebody the other day that started out with Mohawk, and we don't have that up here.
Oh my gosh, we do.
Yeah. Where's Mohawk? But anyway, so any of these places you could have started out and have a Legacy US Airways pension. And basically, depending on where you started, for instance, if you started at the shuttle, your early pension age is age 52, your full pension age is age 62. Now, regardless of which pension you have, if you take it early, there's a 3% reduction prior to the full pension age. So if with shuttle, for instance, that's 3% per year between ages 52 and 62. So basically that would mean if you start at 52, you'd have a 30% reduction in the full value of your pension, but you'd be taking it for 10 years longer. So it kind of comes out in the wash. With Piedmont, Allegheny, US Airways, the early age is age 55. The full pension age is age 62. With PSA, early age is age 55 and full pension age is age 65. So again, the 30% reduction if you take it early, right at 55. For the Legacy AA pensions, the early pension age is age 55 and the full pension age is age 60. So if you start taking it early, there's just a 15% reduction in the full value of your pension. Okay, so, and you notice under there, there's a little bullet that says no double dipping on Legacy AA pensions. Well, let's talk about double dipping. Double dipping applies with the pension to the PBGC pension holders. They can double dip at the early or full pension age. The early commencement reductions still apply. And there's no reduction at your full pension age. So basically, anyone with the PBGC pension can be taking their pension while they're working. And that's what we refer to as double dipping for the pensions. So pension options, Patrick, how many different ways can I take my pension?
That is a great question. How many different ways can I get my money? There are 3 basic ways that you can get your money. You get a single life annuity. The PBGC calls this a straight life annuity. Fortunately for us, the acronym SLA is the same. So you will hear us call that an SLA all through there. You can share with someone else, and it is nice to share.
It's very nice.
Yeah. And you can get a minimum number of checks, regardless of whether you're alive or dead. So let's look at those. There is a 4th option for Legacy AA, and that is the more upfront, less later, the level income option. So, single life annuity, you get a check every month until you're dead, and then it stops. And that's kind of what we think of when we think about an SLA. A payment every month is an annuity. We've got a lot of annuity in our lives. This is an annuity coming in, payment coming in. That annuity, that payment comes for your full life until you're dead, and that's why we call it a life annuity. And it's for one life, yours. So we call that a single life annuity or straight life annuity. And the SLA is the normal form of benefit.
Normal?
Normal. What's normal? So many people ask that. What is normal? Well, do you remember when we were talking about trying to calculate what your number is, the goal, that we had to consider some things? How long you're going to live? What's going to happen to your salary over the course of the year? When are you going to retire? Well, when the company's funding your pension over the entire course of your career, they have to ask those same questions. And one of the questions is, how are you going to take your pension? And so they assume that you are going to take the single life annuity, and they fund for that eventuality. And they come up with the number for your pension, the goal number for your to have the right amount of money in savings on the day you retire to be able to pay that annuity for the rest of your life. And once they have that number, that value of the SLA drives the rest of the options. So let's look at those other options. It's nice to share. That's a pension for your life and someone else's life as well. They will get an annuity for their life after you're gone. You don't get 2 checks every month ever. It comes to you, you die, they survived you. So we're going to call it the survivor annuity. And now remember, it's still the same big pile of money. And so you can choose to leave them 50 to 100% of what you get, not your single life annuity about, but what you get with the joint survivor plan but your share of the joint annuity. But here's the problem. The more you leave them, the less you get. Well, I guess I'm going to have to leave something for Bozo. Otherwise, they're going to be living under a bridge when I'm gone. So I will take the hit. I will take less now while I'm alive, so they get something after I'm gone. Huh? Right? Just price of admission, I guess. That's right. But what happens if they die first? Oh my God, I'm stuck at the lower monthly amount. I could have had a higher amount with a single life annuity, but no. I had to look out for Bozo. I've got news for you. There's a way to cover that risk that the joint annuitant dies first, and that is called the pop-up option. And by taking a slightly lower amount each month, you cover the risk that the joint annuitant dies first. And with the pop-up option, if the joint annuitant dies first, the very next month, you pop back up to the single life annuity amount as though you never made that decision. So we've got our single life annuity and joint and survivor with or without the pop-up. Most people take the pop-up. How much you pay for that pop-up depends on the age difference between you and your joint annuitant. So if your spouse is 2 or 3 years younger or older than you, yeah, but if your joint annuitant is 30 years old because you married that pool boy, you go, girl. The price of that joint survivor is going to be much higher. And frankly, most people are going to take one of these 2 options because that's what covers most people. But there is another option, and that's called the guaranteed period certain. I see this so very rarely, but you should know it's out there just in case you fall into the strange circumstances where the checks are going to come from a minimum of 10, 15, or 20 on the LA side, or 15 to 5, 10, or 15 on the LUS side, even if you're dead. That it's not just for life, but it's for a minimum number of years. And so that would make sense if, like, you were pretty sure you're going to die shortly after you retired, but you wanted the checks to come. You could say, I want the checks to come for 20 years. And because you didn't do a joint and survivor annuity, the checks are going to be much larger for those 10, 15, or 20 years. It's not very common that makes sense, but you should know that option is out there. And if you're legacy LAA, you have a 4th option. It's called the level income option. You get more upfront, less later on. And again, this is very rare, but where we see this is if you retire before Social Security age and you need money, like you've got to pay the rent. You look at your pension, you say, I'm going to be okay when Social Security kicks in with this pension and Social Security, but right now, just the pension, it's not enough. American says, we got a deal for you. We will give you more now. And then when you reach either age 62 or your SSNRA age, we will drop what we pay you because Social Security kicks in and it kind of levels out that difference. I don't think it makes actuarial sense, but if you need the money, you need the money. I mean, you gotta pay the rent. So it's an option out there. If you think you need this, please talk to a financial advisor about it. And it's rare enough that we will be glad to talk to you about it. The only time I see that really is for people that didn't plan. They can't go back to work. Their doctor says no, they got fired, something. But it's out there. So you should know that's out there. So how do I apply for my pension? Well, no earlier than 90 days before you start your pension. If you're LAA, you can request a kit over the phone by calling the Pension Service Fidelity or going online. And online, where you said, I want an estimate, you can also say, send me the kit. And what the kit is it took me a long time to figure out, it's the stack of papers that you have to fill out and sign. And your spouse has to sign and notarize because they know we'll fake their signature like we have been doing for 30 years. So that they either waive or accept the vested benefit that they have in that. If you're LUS, you're going to contact the PBGC directly at the 800 number, or you can go online to the pbgc.gov and create, is it My PBA?
My PBA.
My PBA account, which will allow you to request online. Now, it doesn't print out online, and your estimates don't print out online yet, but you can request all that through there. Wow. Okay. I'm doing this thing and I'm wondering, we were talking about taxes on Social Security. Are there taxes on pension? Well, yes, actually.
Bummer.
Bummer. Federal income tax is just ordinary income. It's as though you were earning it on a paycheck. So depending on which tax bracket you fall in, you're going to pay the next dollar, the incremental dollar, based on which tax bracket you fall in. And as you can see, it's a pretty steep curve until you get up to about 44,000, and then at 95, it just goes up 2% to 24. But then at 182, it jumps back up to 32, 35, 37. So you want to look at that and know that you're going to be paying anywhere between 10 and 37% on your pension. Now, some states don't tax pensions at all. Well, 14 states are only part of the 4 states only tax a part of the pension. So again, that may make you think about, where do I want to live? Where do I want to retire to? Where do I want to be my residence? One of the weird things we have in our profession is that we have so many people who live where they don't work. And sometimes they have multiple residences. The flight attendant I flew with on my last trip, she's got a house in Iowa, and a house in Texas, and a cabin in Indiana. And she said, I just have to figure out which one I'm going to declare my residence for the best tax treatment. I said, that's a really smart idea.
Good to have options.
Good to have options, and make sure you know the rules so that you don't declare the cabin you're in 2 days a year as your residence if it doesn't really qualify. So, and remember, your mileage may vary. These numbers are just used for some mythical flight attendant and not you. Kim, are there other pension tips we should know about?
Yeah, there are a few other pension tips. So first, the pension kits can be requested from AA or Fidelity or the PBGC no later than 90 days out from your retirement.
Oh, no, I need to plan further than that.
Well, you then tell them you're going to retire in 90 days. You get the kit.
I love that.
And then it's still good for another few months after that. If you don't retire within the allotted time period, it will expire and you'll have to get another one. So, but you can't, if you tell them you're going to retire, more than 90 days out, they won't send it to you yet. So keep that in mind.
I think that's because it costs them money to generate that.
It does. It does. That would be why. They don't want us to be wasteful. Okay, the pensions always start on the first of a calendar month, not bid month. Once you retire, you're going to have to kind of put those bid months out of your mind. Pensions always start on the first of a calendar month. You want to be done with your last trip prior to the end of the previous calendar months. Fly-through trips that cannot be dropped would keep you on payroll and prevent you from getting your pension payment for the first month. So you don't want that to happen. This is rare that this would happen with the new retirement notification form, because usually once you submit that, It will take you off of anything that touches your retirement date and after that. But mistakes happen, so it's always good to check and kind of be mindful of this. All right, more pension tips. If you have been divorced while you were earning that pension credit, you want to have copies of your divorce decrees and quadros.
All of them?
All of them. Every divorce decree. I know, because if you don't have those, your pension will be delayed if they're not submitted with your pension paperwork. Now, if you got married and divorced, one of those mistakes in our youth before you even came to the company, don't worry about that one. But it's anything while you were working for US Airways, American Airlines, any of the airlines that eventually got sucked into where your pension is coming from. So keep that in mind. If you're a widow or a widower, you want to include a copy of the death certificate. The first month's always paid retroactively. So usually, well, the PBGC, if you do it 90 days out, it might not be paid retroactively. But with the legacy AA pensions, if you submit all your paperwork, they have everything, they say it's good to go, they're not going to process it until they get a message from American Airlines that you've actually retired. So you're not going to get it on the first of the month, but you will be retro paid for that month. All right, qualified pre-retirement survivor annuity. This is an important benefit for the legacy AA flight attendants. Basically, federal law says that your spouse automatically gets a 50% joint and survivor amount if you pass away prior to commencing your pension benefits. So say you're still working, you're not planning on retiring for a few more years, something happens and you pass away, your spouse is automatically going to get a 50% joint and survivor amount from your pension. However, the QPSA, which is the Qualified Pre-Retirement Survivor Annuity, allows you to elect to leave an 100% joint and survivor annuity to your spouse if something happens before you start your pension benefits. So that's not a bad thing to do, just in case something happens. The form can be found on the Fidelity website, which is www.netbenefits.com/AA. You kind of go to where you can elect, look at your pension estimate, and then you'll see pension documents or pension forms, and you click on that, and that's where you'll find it. Flight attendants are the only work group at American Airlines that can do this, and the company pays for the benefit.
Yay.
We negotiated that a while back. The pilots have to pay for this privilege if they want to do it. So if you talk to a pilot and they say, don't do the QPSA form, it's going to reduce your pension, that does not apply to you. Keep that in mind. Also, you have to have been married at least 12 months for this to go through. So no, deathbed marriages or, I was married 2 days ago, I'm going to do the QPSA form. Doesn't work that way. You have to have been married at least 12 months. But if you are, there's not really a downside to doing it, unless you just flat out don't like your spouse. But hopefully if you're hanging out, you would want to leave them something. And more is better, right?
All right.
All right. Any questions about pensions?
Yeah. Well, this one's about life insurance.
Okay.
Is it portable to take with me when I retire? And if so, how do we locate who's the beneficiary? I do not recall if I named one.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later. However, you will have the option to port or convert your American Airlines life insurance into an individual policy when you retire. So hold that thought.
Hold that thought.
Answer that question a little bit further on in the presentation.
All right. This is two questions that are basically asking the same, so I'm gonna kind of run them together. Our pension, the LAA pension, defined benefit pension plan that was frozen in 2012 in the LAA bankruptcy, does that money grow, or is it the amount remain the same amount that was calculated in 2012? And then does that amount go up if we're still working at age 70? So again, we're talking about the LAA pension, and that froze in 2012. And the amount that it froze at is frozen. There are two possibilities for that number to change. One is if you take it early. Remember, Kim was talking about that 3% a year. you might reduce your pension amount based on that 3% reduction for taking it early. There's also a weird one that we will talk about, which is, does it grow after age 70? Well, yes, it does. Funny you should ask.
70 and a half.
70 and a half. Yes, let's get that 70 and a half. So at 70 and a half, and when they wrote these rules, they knew that no one would ever be a flight attendant past 70 and a half. So they didn't put a lot of thought into this. At 70 and a half, it starts to have delayed credits. And just like if you delay taking your Social Security, it starts to go up an actuarial amount. At 70 and a half, if you're not taking your pension, and you can't if you're still working, it will start to grow actuarially, which actually can be a pretty decent growth. The Social Security, it's all over the board, but it basically averages about 8%. So yes, your pension will grow after age 70 and a half if you continue to work.
But there's a caveat, because when you wait until age 70 to take your Social Security, it increases significantly right away when you turn 70. The pension increase is a very slow, gradual increase. If you take it at age 71, you might not even notice a difference. If you take it at age 72, there's a little bit more. So it's very gradual. I did the math looking at mine to see if it would be worth it. And basically, if I retired at age 62 and lived to be age 90 versus retiring at age 76 and living to be age 90, I'd get 50,000 more by retiring sooner. So you're going to get more, but you might not live as long to enjoy it. So if you're already eligible and you're still working, hey, more power to you. You're going to get a higher pension amount. But if you want to retire, don't delay your retirement just based on that. Yeah.
If you when we talked about the getting ready, that if you're ready and you've got enough money, enough is enough. Just go. Yeah. All right.
If you're still having fun, hey, what the heck?
Although I could make a pretty good argument by working an additional 10 or 12 years, I may not live that much longer as I would if I left early.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So.
And also you can have fun doing other things. I know. Other than layovers. I mean, layovers are fun, but there are other fun things out there too, right?
I'm not sure my liver thinks layover is much fun as that. Kim, what can you tell us about medical insurance options?
Okay, medical insurance options include COBRA, the American Airlines really expensive retiree medical insurance that I talked about earlier, Affordable Care Act, stay tuned, that's getting a little more expensive too, yikes, Medicare, and the old-fashioned way. You can marry someone with insurance and go on their insurance when you retire, or die young and you don't need it, but we're not going to do that. That's not really an option. All right, COBRA. COBRA is a mechanism, it's a law that says, hey, you can continue your health insurance that you had as an active employee, and you don't have to reestablish your deductible, so it's a good thing. Kind of not so good is that you pay the full cost of the insurance plus a 2% admin fee. So right now when you're working, it seems expensive, but guess what? We're paying 80% of the full cost, and the company, we're paying 20% of the full cost, and the company's paying 80% of the full cost. So when you're jumping at and adding on another 80% to what you're paying now, it's going to be a lot more expensive. So really think about that if you're considering COBRA as an option for insurance when you retire. The coverage can last up to 18 months, can last longer if you're eligible for Social Security disability when you retire. It must be elected within the first 60 days of leaving the company. So you don't want to miss that window if you plan to elect COBRA. It's a one-shot deal. So COBRA can include medical, dental, vision, and flex spending, and you can mix and match the coverage. A lot of people who are eligible for Medicare don't take the medical because it's not really smart to take the medical with COBRA if you're eligible for Medicare, but they do continue their dental and vision for another 18 months. That's very common. Once the coverage begins, it's retro to the date you leave American Airlines. So if you retire on January 1st, you have 60 days. You don't have to sign up till March 1st. Guess what? It's retro back to January 1st. So you're not going to not have to pay those first 2 months of premiums. You're going to have to pay for all of it. So most people, for that reason, and the fact that they're uncomfortable being uncovered for a lengthy period of time, go ahead and sign up for COBRA as quickly as possible. The payments, it's very important to make the payments on time. Don't be late or your coverage will be dropped. They're pretty picky about that. A lot of people set it up as a direct debit from their checking account for that reason.
One of the questions we got was, you say COBRA's a lot more expensive. I just looked it up. I currently have the standard plan.
Mm-hmm.
Employee and spouse, I'm paying like $480 something a month for the coverage. If I go to COBRA, it's for that same exact coverage, I'll be paying $2,048 a month.
Ouch.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people are waiting till they're eligible for Medicare to retire. Go figure. I'm probably going to do the same thing. So one last thing, if you're eligible for Medicare, COBRA is not considered to be creditable coverage as an alternative to Medicare. That's why I said really not a good idea to sign up for COBRA Medical once you're eligible for Medicare, because COBRA is always secondary to Medicare, and it's going to pay as though it's secondary whether you sign up for Medicare or not. So don't do it. You'll get yourself in a fix if you try and do that. All right. American Airlines retiree medical insurance. This was what our pre-funded benefit was prior to the bankruptcy, and it didn't go away in the bankruptcy, but it's not free and it's not pre-funded anymore. So you have to pay for the full cost of this insurance. You must be between 55 and 65 at the time of retirement and eligible for the 65-point plan. Once you're eligible for Medicare, it's no longer an option. The participant pays the full cost. The price is uncapped and it's very, very unstable. It actually doubled in 2015. It's probably doubled since then. We need to check that.
Yeah.
So the retiree medical insurance rates, it says 2024, but I think we updated it for 2025.
Those are great.
Those are great. It's a great insurance plan. It really is. $150 deductible. $1,000 out-of-pocket max, only $3,000 for family. That's a great deal. But the price for 2025 per person per month, $2,762. Yikes.
Person?
Well, single person. All right, now that our poor little goat has fainted at the costs, I'm fainting too. It makes me sick at my stomach to see that. What are some other options? So the Affordable Care Act up until now was a very good option. Stay tuned. We really don't know what's happening. Things are in flux right now, but there are Affordable Care Act plans out there. If you want to find out more about them, you go to www.healthcare.gov. If you're eligible, there could be tax credits unless they've been canceled
for another 55
for
days.
Year. Yeah. So in some states, and in some places there may be tax credits available if your income is below a certain amount. There is a company called VIA Benefits that American Airlines contracts with, and if you retire prior to age 65, they can help you find out what plans are available to you in your state. If you retire after age 65, they can help you find Medicare plans. And their information is in the back of our retirement packet, and their website is myviabenefits.com/American Airlines.
All right, let's talk about Medicare.
Let's talk about Medicare, Patrick.
All right. The Medicare coverage is for employees, spouses over 60. One of the most common questions we get is, I'm turning 65 or my spouse is turning 65. Do I need to go on Medicare? Nope.
But.
My sister says I have to. Nope.
No, my best friend says I'll get a penalty.
Nope. And if you doubt that, on the Medicare website, there's a really cool book called Medicare and You. It's kind of like Medicare for Dummies. I have a copy on my desk because there's a lot. Medicare is really complicated. So it says in there, if you have employer insurance and your employer has more than 100 employees, you do not have to go to Medicare. You do not have to sign up.
And there's also a thing on the Medicare website that says, you go to Medicare Basics and it says, follow my path for my situation. And it asks you a bunch of questions. And if you're working for a company with more than a certain number of employees and, you're not retiring yet, it tells you the same thing Patrick just told you. You don't have to sign up for Medicare yet. Now, the only caveat may be for people that have TRICARE. So if you have TRICARE, check, because you might have to sign up for like at least part of Medicare.
Yeah. If you don't have American insurance, like you're on TRICARE or you're on your spouse's medical, but it's their company, they got 12 employees. Okay, so you have to check. If you're not an American, you have to check with your healthcare provider, probably with your HR department, and make sure. But for Americans insurance, you don't have to do it. So good. Let's talk about Medicare. There are two versions of Medicare. One is classic Medicare and one is Medicare Advantage. The classic Medicare is Part A, B, and D. And Part A is the part that we have pre-funded. And all of us know about pre-funding because we've all, we hated it and then we loved it and now it's gone. So yeah, Part A is pre-funded. For your entire career, you've had that little FUTA taken out of your paychecks. It's a tiny amount, but for the entire career, it actually adds up to a good deal of premiums. And Part A covers the hospitalization. And in the old days, it was going to the hospital that bankrupted people. So Medicare Part A was established to make sure that old people had hospitalization coverage. Well, as the medical world changed and I'd like to say improved, our meeting with our physician and our lab tests and so on became a much bigger portion of the expense, which wasn't covered under Part A. So they created a Part B. And Part B covers your primary care physician, your specialists, your lab work. And because that part was not pre-funded, we pay a premium every month for that coverage. And this year it's $186 and it's going to like 201, somewhere in that. The number's probably not right on, but somewhere right in that magnitude per person per month for Part B. And that's great until we get to about 20 years ago. And then the cost of drugs has just exploded. And so we now need insurance for that. And so we have a new one called Part D, D for drugs, that you also will buy independently. Now, Part B is administered by the Medicare people, and it's a government administered program. Part D is going to be from a private company, Aetna, Blue Cross, New York. One of those private companies sell Part D. And the challenge with Part D is you've got to get a Part D that matches the way you use care. Some Part D, it could be like Blue Cross doesn't cover losartan, your blood pressure medicine, and Aetna does. So you want to look and compare and make sure that you're getting a Part D plan that will cover the medications you're on and that the premiums and the deductibles all make sense for the way you use medicine. The number 4 I had on my last trip says, I haven't had a prescription in 15 years. I don't know what my drug benefit is. I'm like, just leave me here to cough. You go over there. So you're at Part D. Now, the problem with all these is that we may decide, okay, Part A is free. I'm going to have to pay for Part B and D. I don't really need drugs right now. And I don't really see my doctor. I'm just not going to sign up for it.
Bad idea.
Yeah, no. If you do not sign up when you should have signed up, and remember, you don't sign up if you're an active employee, but when you finally get to the point where you no longer have Americans insurance and you don't sign up, there are late enrollment fees. Well, darn.
Zing.
Well, I work until I'm 70. I go sign up for Medicare and they go, oh, you're 5 years late in signing up for Medicare. No. I had a job. I had insurance. And they say, prove it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a form for that because government. And that form is called the CMS L564. And that's what it looks for. And it looks suspiciously like me to that
Family
leave where you fill out the top part and send.
Except much more
Much-
simple
much
than the
simpler.
AA family leave form.
Exactly. Don't think they make that complicated to make me trip me up on purpose? No, they would never do that. So you fill out the top part, send it into American, they send that back to you. And then once you take that into Medicare, okay, you have coverage, no penalties. So if you retire past 65, you will probably end up having to fill out this form so that you avoid late enrollment penalties for your Part B and D. Part of the problem with Medicare is it's an 80-20 plan. So I go into the hospital, I have $1 million worth of work done. So what is that, a Band-Aid? I don't know. I have $1 million worth of work done. Medicare says, no problem. We will pay that 80%. Oh, cool. So you pay the 20%. Wait, that's $200,000. Yeah. So that's a gap. That's a coverage gap. So we have what we call Medigap policies. And this is a fourth part of Medicare Classic. That covers the 20% that you have to pay. And the important part of that is with Medicare, that 20%, there's an out-of-pocket max. So if I have a $10 million bill, then I'm at $2 million is my 20%. So the Medigap policy gets to be pretty important. Now, there are a lot of different policies that have different coverages. There are actually 10 different Medigap plans available. And if you go to our good slide, you will find on page 29, I think, 31, a list of all the 10 Medigap policies that are available. And what's the differences? Some of them have no deductible. Some of them have a $200 deductible. Some of them cover services out of the United States. Some of them do not. So, you'll want to look and make sure, just like you have to make sure the drug plan you get is right, you have to make sure that the gap plan you get is right as well. Now, and most people call it Medigap. I think the actual formal name is a supplement. So you may hear, Medicare supplement or Medigap. They're talking about the same thing. So with that.
And the list of those plans is also in that Medicare and U book that we referred to earlier.
Yeah. And also on the Medicare website, they have a tool that will help you pick the best Medigap plan for the way you use and the best drug plan for based on the drugs you use. And just to make that even more complicated, that varies depending on where you live. Because a friend of mine lives in Salt Lake City and has the most amazing Part D plan with Kaiser up there. And I went, oh, well, that's the one I should get. It's not available here in Dallas. So,
or Texas,
or Texas at all anymore. Yeah. So, if you are an American Airlines retiree, you are going to be. Yes, there's an 11th option it's a Voluntary Employment Benefit Association, VEBA, that was created specifically for retired airline workers. It's almost like we got so badly screwed in all of the bankruptcies, we started our own Medigap or supplement plan, and that's exactly what that is. It may be better than what the other 10 are or not, but you certainly want to make sure that you take a look at it. And the information on how to reach out to those people is in there. Now, some people say, Patrick, you've hurt my head. 4 different parts, multiple different choices under the Part D and the Medigap, and I can't. Yeah. So we now have what's called a Part C or an Advantage plan.
Oh, to make it even more complicated.
Even more complicated. So we have our traditional, and now we're looking at the Advantage plan. And what an Advantage plan does is it's basically taking all those options and privatizing it into a plan like
similar to an
HMO. And some of them are really good. They provide amazing coverage. The deductibles are low, the fees are low. I was talking to a client out in Fort Worth. They have an Advantage plan where it covers a taxi ride from your house to your doctor and back under their Medicare. Like that's crazy. And they pay less than $100 a month for this Advantage plan. So they offer dental plans, which is great. They offer vision, and they all mix and match, trying to get the best plan to get you to buy them, because the government pays them a flat rate for covering you, and they seem to be very profitable. So they go out of their way to try to get people to leave classic Medicare and go to the Advantage plans. It may be the best idea out there for you, or it may not. You know what? Consult a Medicare advisor. It is so, I mean, Kim and I work with this regularly, like daily, and it's still kind of, Medicare advisors have the tools and the education to help you pick the one that's going to be right for you. And like I mentioned before, on Medicare.gov, they have a couple of widgets that will do that.
And we are hearing more and more about the Medigap plans. I mean, not the Medigap, but the Medicare Advantage plans that you pay a lot less upfront, but if you run into any health issues, you end up paying more. So really do your homework and make sure you know what you're signing up for.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like an HMO. You have to go to their doctors, and some of the Advantage plans are PPO, which means they have a pretty good size network, and some of them are Advantage HMO, which means they have a pretty small network. But if your doctor that you've known and seen for 20 years isn't in the plan, you can't use them. So just it's an option. Talk to a Medicare advisor and try and figure out which one works for you.
And the more you share with your Medicare advisor about your health issues and your doctor, the better plan you're going to get for you. They can't ask you about those things because it would be a HIPAA violation. But if you're willing to share those things, you're going to get hooked up with a better plan.
Yeah. And that when Kim told me that the first time, I'm like, wait, no, I'm asking about health insurance and I can't tell them my health. Yeah, really, seriously. So hey, this disease, that's give them all the information. So that's Medicare. Kim, what else do I need to research to retire?
Okay, there's a few other little things that you might want to think about. So we'll go through those. What else do I need to research? And I want to think about life events, your optional insurance. Can you keep that after retirement? Dental insurance. What am I going to do about my teeth? Flexible spending accounts. Okay, life events. The important thing about life events is to remember that your retirement is your spouse or your partner's life event if you want to go on their coverage. So when you retire, you'll have like maybe 30 to 60 days, and they will have to file a life event and add you to their coverage. They want to make changes. They might want to add you to their company life insurance, but the health benefits, that's the main thing for the life event. If you're married to another AA employee, that's also a life event where you can go on your spouse's insurance. Just remember, when you switch to their coverage, it's going to be like a new plan. It's not like COBRA. So when you switch to their insurance, your deductibles and out-of-pocket maxes are going to reset, and you might have to meet those again partway through the year. So keep it in mind and be prepared. Your optional insurance includes things like your MetLife legal, long-term care policies, home and auto policies, and pet insurance. And all of these things can be continued after you retire. You just have to contact those particular administrators and let them know you want to set up direct bill because you're not going to be having a paycheck anymore for those to be deducted from. And all of those are through AA active benefits, and we've got the number in our retirement packet. The employee life insurance and accident insurance will end. We talked about this. Someone asked about the life insurance. However, your life insurance may be ported or converted into a private policy within 30 to 60 days after you retire. So you should receive a port convert letter, or you can reach out to New York Life for the AD&D and voluntary personal accident insurance, and MetLife for the life insurance. It will not require a physical exam to qualify for this because you already have the coverage, but you usually will pay more when you convert it from a group rate under American Airlines to the individual policy after you retire. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that you don't have to port or convert the full amount. Say you've been buying up every year, you have like tons and tons of life insurance with the company in case something happened. You can just port or convert, 20,000, 50,000. It doesn't have to be the whole amount. Okay, so your long-term and short-term disability coverage will end when you retire. However, if you're out on long-term or short-term disability and you're receiving benefit payments, those payments can continue even after you retire, as long as you're still eligible for that disability payment. All right, dental insurance, yikes. It's getting better, but dental insurance has not been a great thing or easy to get when you retire. They do offer you retiree dental insurance when you retire, and you're going to get it along with the offer for that really expensive retiree medical plan if you're under age 65. If you're over age 65, you're just going to get the solicitation for the dental insurance. It's zip code rated. It's a high dollar product, doesn't have great benefits. So it's not too many people sign up for it. What they do is COBRA their dental, as we mentioned earlier, for 18 months. And now with Medicare, if you're Medicare eligible, a lot of the people that sell you the Medigap plans or the Advantage plans have some sort of dental coverage that you can add to those if you request it. So look into that with your Medicare advisor as well. Another option is you can sign up for like a dental club. There's one that the credit union offers through Dental Services of America. I know Costco offers something. A lot of people sign up for that. And also your dentist's office may have some sort of plan that you can sign up for. So these are all options of things you can check into. You could go to a dental school and be a guinea pig. I know several people that have done that. Sounds scary, but actually it works out well. You get pretty good care. So that's another thing if you got a dental school in your area. And as I mentioned before, the Medicare supplement plans and Advantage plans may have some dental riders available that you can attach to those. All right, flex spending accounts. So you know how every year if we sign up for a flexible spending, they say you got to use it or lose it. Every year you want to use it during that calendar year, or you can roll over $500, but if you have more than that, you're going to lose it. Well, when you retire, it's the only time you can use your flex spending and the company potentially loses. So basically, if you use all of your flex spending in the first 2 months of the year and then you retire, you've only made 2 deposits into that flex spending account, but you've used the whole amount. The company's going to have to eat the deposits for the rest of the year. They're not going to come back and make you pay for those. So you could, put in the full amount, which is like maybe $3,000 or something, use it all. You've only made a couple of deposits, retire. Guess what? You've got a lot of it for free. It's a couple of $1,000 free money because you timed it correctly. You can COBRA the flex spending, but you really don't want to do that because it defeats the purpose. You would be putting that money in post-tax instead of pre-tax. So really, it's going to be better for you if you put in a flex spending amount if you use it prior to your retirement. So I think that covers about everything. Now, guess what? It's your turn to decide if you want to retire. And Patrick has a little bit to encourage you one way or the other.
One of the most challenging things about retirement is that there's a lot of moving pieces. But I have confidence that it's nothing you can't handle. You do 287 people on an airplane twice, 3 times a day, and get people, bags, and yourself all over the country, all over the world. This isn't anything you can't handle. Unfortunately, you've never retired before.
Right.
So it's all going to be new. How do you keep track of everything? Well, one of the things I recommend is start a list. And there's actually a really good starter point on page 37 of the APFA package goods slide. Got a list? You're not going to miss anything, because that's one of the things when you haven't done something before is what do I not know? What do I don't know that I don't know? So yeah, so a list is a good place to do that. How many times have you been to CQ? How do you do a list? One task at a time, step at a time, in order, just like the planned emergency checklist. I like to think of it as a planned departure checklist, which will work wonders for making sure that you get everything covered. And like I said, you've never done this before. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Who do you ask? How about APFA? We've got all of this investment into people having knowledge and education. We have resources for you, like our good slide. So ask the company. I'm not sure you'll get the answers, but they're getting a little better. We keep nagging them. And don't be afraid to reach out to support people. Reach out to Medicare.gov, reach out to a financial advisor, reach out to a Social Security advisor, reach out to a Medicare advisor. You don't know all of this stuff, and they do. And that's when you want to get the advice of a professional.
Please ask questions.
Please
We'd
ask
rather
questions.
you call and ask questions than find out later on that, it's not going to be earth shattering, but you don't want to miss something and then have to, backtrack and try and, I was supposed to get signed up for Medicare, or you mean I have to do paperwork to start my pension? It doesn't happen automatically. Those things you want to kind of look at and plan for. Those are the two big things, really.
Right,
But
right.
it's important to kind of know before you take the leap. And then that you'll be forewarned is forearmed, right?
Exactly, exactly. And being forearmed, you've gone through what, 2.5 hours here of really intensive information. So you are prepared. You've got this. You're ready. Let's go. Good slide.
Good slide.
Good slide. Hey, what questions do we have?
Okay, are there any that we haven't answered yet?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's a lot about Medicare, so we'll start with answering some of those. Oh, here's one about COBRA. Why don't we ask, what are the COBRA monthly dues or premiums for a single person for 2026, 2027? We're about to update our packet with that information, so we will get back to you. Right now, we just have the 2025 numbers, but the COBRA numbers do change, and they always go up. So basically, this is the 2025 for standard plan for one person, 890.70. The numbers are on the website in our retirement packet if you want to download it. And probably within the next couple of weeks, we will be trying to get that updated, but you can always call and ask the health department or the retirement department, and I will get you the numbers for 2026.
All right. The form you guys talked about, the Medicare request for employment information, the CMS form. What is the fax number to send that form to?
Okay, so the fax number for that is the fax for the Benefits Service Center, and it is in our retirement packet on page, what page is this? 38. And no, it's 39, sorry. And the number is 1-847-554-1884. That's the Benefits Service Center fax number that you send that CMS L564 or the employment verification form to for Medicare. And that's a good idea after you fax it to them, maybe 24 to 48 hours, give them a call and find out, verify that they've received it and find out when they're going to send it to you.
All right. I'll take this first one. If I retire early at 62, oh no, you'll take this first. If I retire early at 62 and I'm not eligible for Medicaid care yet, I'm not eligible for Medicaid because I'm not that poor. What are my health insurance options? And I think you talked about that.
Yes, we have the company called VIA Benefits that can help you find Affordable Care Act plans. So they can help you find out what's eligible, what you might be eligible for in your state, or you can just go on, what is it, healthcare.gov. That's the government's site for the Affordable Care Act. You could also get a part-time job. A lot of people do that, maybe someplace like Starbucks or, Costco, Sam's. There are places where you don't have to work that many hours in order to get healthcare benefits if you need health benefits after you retire. And if you're married, you can go on your spouse's insurance. So those are the main options if you're not yet eligible for Medicare. If you are retiring because of a disability, you can file for Social Security disability. And if you're awarded that, you would get Medicare early. So that is another option, but it would only apply to people who are having health or disability issues.
And qualify.
and qualify. Right.
Okay, I'll take this next part. Where can I do this town hall since I'm flying? On two places. The APFA website under our videos has a hot link over to the APFA channel on YouTube, and it will be on the YouTube channel. Those are sorted in time order, so this one will be at the top when it goes in a couple of days. The other place is you can go directly to YouTube, search for APFA in the search bar, and it'll take you to our channel, and you will also be able to find it that way.
But if you just go to the website, you go to news on the top menu bar, and then you'll see national town halls. You click on that. And then once you click on that, you'll see all the town halls, but you can even do a little filter and just filter for the retirement town halls. So that's an easy way to get to it. And you don't even have to log in to the website to access this information.
Yeah. The one bad bit of news is the jokes don't get better.
No, they're the same. Or the presenters.
Yeah. We just keep getting prettier. That or my eyes are getting worse. I'm not sure which. Okay, it's for Patrick. I want to know about the special coverage, that 11th option for flight attendants for Medicare you discussed. Okay, that's under the airline retiree Medigap VIPA. And I'm going to give you the number, but if you download the good slide, you'll find it on page 41, and the phone number is 844-413-1989. And so you'll want to reach out to them and say, hey, tell me what options I have for a supplemental or Medigap plan for 2026. Question for you. On all of this retiree stuff, where does AFLAC fit into that once I retire?
AFLAC?
Yeah.
The AFLAC policies were once offered by APFA, well, to APFA members. And I think they've been converted to a different provider. I don't think they're still provided by AFLAC. So if you want more information about that, you should call the health department here at APFA, and they have all the current information about those voluntary benefits that are offered to APFA members.
Good answer. All right. I turned 65 this past August, although I don't plan to retire for quite a while. They suggested I apply for Medicare Part A because it's free, and why not?
And why not?
Then she suggested I call, I believe, 90 days before I'm going to retire to start my other Medicare plans. Is that correct? I'll take this one.
Okay, you start the process 90 days before you take this one.
Yeah. Usually it's fine. There are some people with some benefits that taking Part A is not good. And if you have an HSA, and if you have an HSA, it's not an FSA, it's not an RHRA, because you elected into that, and you also know because you have the core plan. But if you have the core plan and you have an HSA, and you sign up for Medicare Part A, they block you from making any more contributions to your HSA, which you don't want. That's why you signed up for an HSA, to get money put away. So for that group of people, signing up for Medicare Part A does hurt them. For most of us, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't help, it doesn't cost us anything. But to be honest, I don't think I have ever heard of anything that Medicare Part A will pay for that American insurance doesn't already pay for. And remember, if you have active benefits,
you have hospital coverage.
You have hospital coverage, and it's primary. So Medicare will be secondary, and if the primary covers it, Medicare is not going to pay the difference. And if it doesn't cover it, it's a pretty good chance that Medicare doesn't cover it either, because American covers a lot of things that Medicare does not, one of which is hearing aids. So, yeah. All right. Kim, is it true you can start taking Medicare 2 months prior to your 65th birthday?
You can sign up 2 months prior to your 65th birthday. You can't start taking it. The earliest that you can start taking it is the first of the month when you turn 65. The only exception is if you turn 65 on the first of the month, then you can take it on the first of the previous month. So, and for most people, it's going to be the soonest you can start taking it would be the first of the month when you turn 65. So you can sign up 2 months before, but the coverage wouldn't start until then.
All right. This is an RHRA question. There's a rumor going around that once you give an official notice to retire and claim that you want to draw your RHRA, fund your RHRA from your sick bank, that they freeze your sick bank and you can't use your sick hours anymore for that last 4 months. Is that true?
That is not true for the flight attendants. I do believe it's true for some other work groups on the property, but that was not the way we negotiated our RHRA. So you can use up all of your sick time, even if you elected the RHRA, and then you won't get the RHRA, or you can use part of it and you'll get less in the RHRA, but you can use it after you've put in that 4-month notification.
So I could use my sick time at 100% or not use it and get it to 50%. Huh.
Yeah, if you need to use it, use it.
Use it, yeah. And then the question is, okay, if I can use it and I do use some of it, when do they calculate how much to pay me? When I put in the form or what's left at the end?
What's left at the end, obviously. And I think the pilots might be frozen based on how much they had the previous year or when they put in the form. Again, you're going to hear things from the pilots that are different. You're going to hear things from the mechanics that are different. We all have an RHRA option, but our formulas vary a little bit.
Yeah.
So just look at our contract and the formula for us.
All right. Well, that's the end of our questions. And want to thank you all for attending. And like I say, you will have additional questions, probably in the middle of the night while you're trying to get a sleep in Des Moines. You'll go, oh, yes, I should have asked. Please send us an email, retirement@apfa.org, or call. And we tend to work remote a lot, so you'll probably get voicemail and we'll call you back. But do ask questions.
And also, I heard that there was a little problem with the little link they used to submit questions. So if you're able to hear the presentation, but you weren't able to submit your questions, just email them to us at retirement@apfa.org. So, and we'll do our best to get you the answers.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys have a good afternoon.